All right, let's get right into it. Today, we're tackling one of the biggest questions you can possibly ask. What does it actually mean to be alive? We're going to break down the fundamental jobs that every single living thing, from a tiny cell to you and me, has to do just to exist. I mean, it seems super obvious, right? A dog runs around, it breathes, it sleeps. A rock? Well, a rock just sits there. But what about a plant that you can't see growing? Or an animal that's completely still? You see, the real defining difference isn't just about movement. It's something much, much deeper, happening at a level we can't even see. And here it is, the crucial point. The universe, by its very nature, tends to break things down. It moves from order to disorder to chaos. Think about it. Everything eventually decays, right? But life? Life is the ultimate rebel. It actively fights back against this breakdown. It builds and maintains these incredibly complex, organized structures. And that, my friends, is a constant, full-time battle. So this brings us to the central problem of being alive. Because of this constant pressure from the environment, all those organized things, our tissues, our cells, they are always on the very edge of breaking down. So how does life manage to stay one step ahead of all that chaos? Well, it does it through what scientists call life processes. Now, don't let the name fool you. This isn't just some boring list of functions from a textbook. Think of it more like a relentless 24/7 maintenance crew that keeps the entire operation running. Even when you're fast asleep, this maintenance job never stops. It's constantly repairing, constantly preserving that precious order. Let's take a look at the 4 biggest jobs on that list. First up, job number 1, getting fuel. Every living thing needs fuel and raw materials to work with. This whole process is called nutrition. And you can think of it like this. A city needs to import food and building supplies to function, right? An organism has to do the exact same thing. Bring in energy from the outside world. But how they do that splits all of life into 2 major teams. So on one side, you've got the autotrophs, which literally means self-feeders. These are the master chefs of the world, things like plants. They take simple stuff like carbon dioxide and water, add a little sunlight, and voila, they cook up their own food. But on the other side, you have the heterotrophs, the other feeders. And yep, that's us. We can't make our own food, so we have to eat complex things, plants, or other animals that have already been made for us. Okay, so you've got the fuel. But, raw fuel isn't very useful on its own. You can't run a city on a barrel of crude oil. You need a power plant to turn it into electricity. It's the same for living things. Organisms need a process to convert that food into usable energy. And that job is called respiration. So let's take a quick peek inside this energy factory. It all starts with a simple sugar, glucose. The first step, which happens out in the main part of the cell, basically snaps that sugar into a smaller molecule. Now, from here, the cell has a choice. If there's plenty of oxygen around, that little molecule heads into the cell's powerhouses, the mitochondria, for a process that unleashes a huge amount of energy. But what if you're, say, sprinting flat out and your cells run out of oxygen? Well, they switch to a backup plan. This anaerobic path creates lactic acid. That's the stuff that makes your muscles burn, and it produces way, way less energy. It's a clever but pretty inefficient emergency mode. The whole point of all that work, the end product, is this incredible molecule called ATP. You got to remember this one. ATP is the universal energy currency for all life on Earth. The best way to think of it is like a tiny rechargeable battery.
Whenever a cell needs to do anything, contract a muscle, build a new molecule, send a nerve impulse, it spends an ATP. And respiration? That's just the process of constantly, endlessly recharging those little batteries.
All right, so the cell has fuel, and it has a way to create energy. But that's totally useless if you can't get those resources where they need to go. Now, in a tiny single-celled organism, stuff can just kind of drift in and out. But what about us? We're made of trillions of cells. This creates a massive logistics problem, and it requires a really sophisticated delivery system. I mean, think about it. Most of your cells are very deep inside your body, miles away from your lungs or your stomach. They can't just sit around and wait for oxygen and nutrients to slowly drift their way. Simple diffusion is just way, way too slow for a complex creature like us. So, just how slow are we talking? Well, here's a number that'll absolutely blow your mind. Without a proper delivery system, just relying on diffusion alone, it would take an oxygen molecule 3 years to get from your lungs to your toes. 3 years. Clearly, life needed a much, much faster solution. So we need a hero for this delivery job. And that hero is a specialized molecule called hemoglobin. It's packed into our red blood cells, and hemoglobin has this incredibly powerful attraction to oxygen. It basically grabs onto oxygen in the lungs and then zips through the bloodstream at high speed, dropping it off to every single cell that needs it. You gotta love hemoglobin, right? And the system it uses is absolutely brilliant. In humans, we have what's called double circulation. Our heart basically acts as two pumps in one. One pump sends all the used up, deoxygenated blood over to the lungs for a refill. Then the other pump takes that fresh, oxygen-rich blood coming back from the lungs and sends it blasting out to the rest of the body. This separation is super, super efficient, and it's what allows us to have such high energy levels. Which brings us to our fourth and final job. Look, any busy city or factory is going to produce waste, and a living cell is no different. You can't just let trash pile up, right? You need an efficient waste management system. And this, my friends, is the job of excretion. Now, it is so important to understand that we're not just talking about getting rid of undigested food here. No, this is much more fundamental. Every single one of those chemical reactions that generates energy also produces byproducts. Things like carbon dioxide and other nasty wastes are created inside every cell. And if you let them build up, they can become seriously toxic. They have to be removed, period. So we've looked at 4 distinct jobs. But the real magic of life, the thing that separates it from just being a complicated machine, is how these jobs all work together. It's not a checklist, it's like a perfectly coordinated symphony. Let's just quickly recap them one more time. You've got to bring in fuel and materials through nutrition. Then you convert that fuel into usable energy through respiration. You need a transportation network to deliver all the supplies. And finally, you have to have an excretion system to remove all that toxic waste. But here's the real takeaway. None of these jobs work alone. Your transportation system delivers the fuel for respiration. Respiration creates the energy for the transportation system to even work in the first place. And the waste from respiration has to be carried away by that same transportation system to the excretory organs. Do you see? It's this beautiful, self-sustaining, interconnected loop. And this brings us right back to where we started. Life isn't really a static thing you can point to. It's a process. It's a set of functions. It's the continuous, energy-burning work of building and maintaining order in a universe that is constantly trying to tear it all down. So the next time you take a breath or feel your own heartbeat, just remember that. You are part of this incredible, ongoing, and beautiful rebellion against chaos.